All right, I'm here with several members of the steering committee of the Mystic Charles Pollinator Pathway Group and members of the pollinator group and gardeners and enthusiasts and several people I know who spend time walking through Mount Auburn Cemetery. So tonight we'd like to welcome Steph Almasi, Director of Ornamental Horticulture at Mount Auburn Cemetery, a position she's held for now 4 years. Trained in ornamental horticulture. Stephanie attended the, where did I have that? The school in Southern Maine Community College, worked for private industry for a number of years, and then was turned on to native plants when you were at the public garden. What was it? I lost my place. When you were down at the Rose Kennedy Greenway. All right. So anyway, tonight we're going to hear about what it's like to manage the Mount Auburn landscape when you have to be mindful about ecological systems, but also a public facing arboretum. So Stephanie has some slides and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna do this. Okay, I can do this. You'll have to bear with me while I try to share my screen. So you see this, and I am going to do the slideshow from the beginning. And I'm going to not put my notes on there. There you go, right? You can see that the way you want to see it? Great.
Yes, great.
Thanks, sorry. I practiced, but you know, I've definitely garden things is my strong point. Anyway, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me, or coming to your meeting and having me here to hear about my experiences as a horticulturist, gardening in public spaces. I did have one correction of that. I've only been the director of my department for just a year, but I've been here at Mt. Auburn Cemetery since 2020, and I have enjoyed every moment of this whirlwind pandemic filled experience of public gardening. I've been a long-time gardener my entire life. I'm a horticulturist, a bird lover. I'm a Massachusetts certified horticulturist and a NOFA accredited organic land care professional. And I started my career in Maine in the private sector from about 2003 to 2014, and I worked closely with native plants there as much as possible. So I started there with most of my journey, and have just been doing it ever since. I've been all up and down the East Coast with many different experiences. I'm also a member of the Horticultural Club of Boston. I'm a native plant trust plant conservation volunteer, and I've just started regularly attending the New England Botanical Society gatherings and talks, which I've been really enjoying. If you haven't checked them out, they're a lot of fun. So I'm not completely focused on Mount Auburn. I will quickly say a little bit about my time at the Greenway. After I left South Carolina, which is where I really kind of sparked my passion for public land care. I worked for the city of Charleston there, which was a whole nother host of challenges. But I landed here in the Boston area at Rose Kennedy Greenway as a horticulturist and volunteer program coordinator, assistant, and I worked here for just a couple of years because once I found out there was a position open at Mount Auburn, I just had to work here. So love at first sight. But I wanted to mention a little bit about this. This is an area called the Wharf District, and it is completely planted fully with native plants. And here's some volunteers planting on the left, these birch islands, we called them, with Carex pennsylvanica, which if I had only known how much my life was going to be spent with Carex pennsylvanica after this, I'd do it all over again, because it's just such a great native turf alternative. And so this was one of my first experiences using it in a public space, which has challenges because people like to walk across there, and it's a pretty delicate to get established, but that you can also see that we're in the middle installing leaf mulch, which this was one of my first experiences in using leaf mulch, which everyone in the public space, was like, oh, what's that smell? Oh, it's awful. And we're like, this smells great. I love the smell of decomposed leaves as mulch. But now here we are, now I've come full circle at the cemetery. We collect any leaves that we collect are composted and shredded and made into mulch, which we use on perennial beds as we see fit. And I just threw in here this picture of a meadow that we created in 2019. That was my first experience in working with meadows, and was just completely hooked with this type of public use of land in taking an open space and using it and making it into a meadow, a place to provide habitat and have food for birds and insects and everything. And then also that the public could enjoy. It's beautiful and it is providing to the wildlife and the ecology. So, and I can't resist a good selfie with the meadow once it had germinated. That's the first year the seed germinated. So that's a little bit about that. And the most exciting thing that's happening right now are spring ephemerals. And so while you might walk into the cemetery, we have a variety of landscape that we cover. And that's kind of where the ornamental part of the ornamental horticulture comes in from my department, which is that we're providing a space for everyone to enjoy and to take in the sights and learn different plants and be surprised by plants and nature, while also providing these important habitats and important food sources and seed sources and nesting material and all kinds of things for a whole huge range of wildlife. But I just couldn't help but point out, as things kind of unfolded in the last, I'd say, month, things got sped up last week, certainly for the ephemerals. But what you can see right now for our first, pollinator food, all of these here can provide a little something for bees or flies, mostly. Some butterflies and moths anyone that's around will get this. I have to say that as I talk about some of our other, I always call them babies. I'm like, our babies, the animals, the bees, the insects, the birds and everything. I'm not a herpetologist or an entomologist or an ornithologist. I deal in plants, but everything I've learned has kind of been on my own from that side of things. But I really have a huge interest in it, and it's really important to me and my team to work hard to provide these types of spaces. So there's a few of the plants that you'll see. This kind of teeny tiny little sad photo of a Thalictrum, Thalictroides down here. We have just a few poking out of the leaves. We leave as much as possible as we can for leaves, especially in some areas. I'll talk about it some more, but we have areas that are, intentionally left. Well, that's part of the balance that we have to strike, and that we have a lot of highly visited, at first, first off, we're a cemetery. So we have a lot of very high visited areas by people who are here to commemorate the dead or to visit a loved one. And so we like to keep things neater for them, while also still striking this balance of, educating visitors, the public and others, that we are a huge green space for a large amount of wildlife. So yeah, I got lost on that tangent though, so I'll just move to the next slide. And this is what we're here for in some of those cases. We have, whoops, I just turned that off. Mourning cloaks, which we've just seen in the last couple weeks. These are our spotted salamanders, which we've been keeping track of the last month or so, that this is when they come out to breed. And Mount Auburn has the largest population in Cambridge, Watertown of the spotted salamander, and in the 20-mile or so radius. We have Joe Martinez, who's been working really hard on our amphibians, keeping the populations up here because there really isn't any place for them to go or be. And so I work closely with Paul Kwiatkowski, who's the director of urban ecology and sustainability here. And we work together to ensure that our habitats are being managed thoughtfully, in a way that's going to support these initiatives as best we can. So in some cases, as I was saying before, in some areas, in some parts of the landscape, we have to strike that balance of where we're cleaning up a little more, we're keeping it a little neater, or that's one of the first places we go as we work through our spring cleanups. But we have an area through the middle of the cemetery that we really are trying to, and we are keeping a lot more natural. There's a lot more leaf cover, and we are being more mindful and very intentional with how we cut back or manage the plants there, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then there's this little viceroy that I had here, which I just wanted, this isn't a photo of native plants or anything, but I would say that it kind of demonstrates this balance of an ornamental or a fine garden, you would call. This is an Asa Gray garden where I would say about half of these plants, no, not about, half of these plants here are, exotic or introduced, and the others are native. We've got Pycnanthemum and Helianthus, and then this is an Allium cultivar, and we've got peony. And so that it's kind of the ultimate balance garden, in my opinion, in that it has a little bit of both and for everyone. So everyone being, humans that are visiting to learn about plants or just to enjoy or to feel soothed by the landscape, and then also provides a lot of interest for insects and birds and things like that. One of my favorite areas, and one that we really focus on keeping as wild and natural as possible at this point now, is the wildflower meadow. This also big balance here. We're looking at the southeast side of the tower here, where I would say has a lot more of the kind of cultivars of native plants. You've got some Vernonia in there. We've got Schizachyrium scoparium, which is like my hands down favorite plant, big time. Like I couldn't love that plant anymore any time of the year, any day of the week. And and also I think that white plant is I don't know, I had a moment. It's a type of Eupatorium that I can't remember the name of right now, which I'm sorry, I have like a million little plant notes here on my desk, and I'm not coming up with it right away. But in any case, this area is, if you're familiar with the space, it goes from like one staircase around to the other staircase. And I really see this as, a more ornamental, more fine garden area. It's really like the entrance to the tower, and it looks over the city. And so we keep that, we leave it all standing through the winter, but this is an area that we'll cut back more mindfully. We'll mulch it, we'll keep it a little bit neater. And moving ahead, you'll see here, my little pointer, this is not too long ago, actually. It's kind of winter spring look, that little blue stem still just glowing, looking great. We will leave that until probably next week or so. Last week was when I really started seeing, stuff flying around, and I'm thinking, okay, things are waking up a bit. We can start, tidying a little bit more. So, and then to the left here, this is the summer look, which has, you've got your Joe Pyeweed and your echinacea and your butterfly milkweed. There's lots of liatris and all kinds of things in here. And then to this one over here, this is this is the other kind of 2/3 or so of the tower, which I would say, yeah, it's like about 3/4 of the tower. It goes from the south end all the way around to the northeast side, which we are it historically would get for a variety of reasons, just different management practices and staffing and things like that, it would just get kind of chopped down and cleaned up in the fall and just be done with it. That's how it was managed. And after some other recommendations and looking at it, we've been kind of chipping away at keeping it standing longer and longer. How many complaints do we get? Not many. Okay, so this last year we left it completely standing, which and it did really well. It stood up, and it has a cute little fuzzy look to it now. And I'm working with the horticulturist who manages this zone. We have 6 horticulturists that manage different zones in the cemetery, and we're working together to I read about taking a meadow or meadow space and only cutting back fully like a third or a portion of it, and leaving other portions standing, and then rotating through every year, so that at one time a big portion of it will just still remain standing to support different any type of bees or insects or anything that is going to use any of these wonderful plant pieces that are left standing. So we're getting ready to work on that. We're going to see how that's going to go. We're experimenting a little bit with that. And additionally, in this area, anything else that'll get cut down, and then all the other kind of more ecological ecologically managed horticulture areas, still stumble with that. We're using this Xerces Society model to cut back stems in a way that will leave and create habitat for stem nesting bees too. So this is our first year trying this instead of our very neat stem cuts. We're working on that, which takes a little time to get everybody cutting things. It's a lot easier to just whack it down and move on, but now we're being more mindful about how we do that. This is on the Xerces Society website. I'm sure folks have seen this. And then there's this other piece about saving stems and things like that. So additionally, the Tufts pollinator network too, they have some great information about how to manage the garden. But it's really neat because some of the some bees, they will nest in there, lay an egg, and they need to stay in through the growing season. So leaving them up forever is not always an option for everyone, but cutting them strategically can work. So we're trying that out this year, see how that goes. But we have a ton of places for everyone to find a space to nest, which I feel thankful for. Another area that we love for our pollinators and native plants, which has a mix of non-natives in there too a little bit, but is the butterfly garden, which is at Willow Pond. Big fan of this one. This was installed somewhere around 2007 with a whole host of plants. And over the years, plants, when you're maintaining, this happened at the tower as well. Speaking of challenges, is that maintaining plants and gardens, especially perennial gardens and things like that, some things will kind of outcompete each other, others will get shaded out. Or one of our challenges here when we're trying to grow a native meadow space or use some of these meadow plants is that we have really rich, robust soil, and those plants really like leaner soil that's a little drier. And so, we want to water it and take care of it. And sometimes that can lead to some, shortcomings or whatever. And so over the years, the things that really like the location or the site will carry on, and others don't. So a couple of years ago thought, oh, I looked at this and said, oh, we've got a lot of this, Helianthus and Rudbeckia and the Joe Pye weed and the Vernonia are really kind of taking over. And, can't we, get a little more variety, provide a little bit more, value for a more variety of pollinators, but also, for us, we want to look at it and see how pretty it is too. So, but it's like a win-win in my opinion, right? Because we can add some more great native plants and then also provide more, nectar or pollen for other pollinators. So we called some things out, made some edits, and then added a lot more plants. There's one of our folks doing some plant cleaning up after we planted. This is the triangle right in front. We've got some really great Geum triflorum, which is an awesome native plant that blooms early. That's one thing that I really, stands out to me is that having some sort of food source early in the season is nice. So I'm always looking for earlier things to add. And then, of course, our Echinacea purpurea, everyone loves. And here's what the garden looks like through the winter time. We've got lots of leaves, lots of stems, and we're getting ready to kind of start cutting this back and tidy it up pretty soon, probably next week, end of the week or next week, which, it might look like a messy garden to others, but we're real, I'm really here to say, like, this is a healthy garden. This aligns with the goals for this type of garden. And, we have several areas throughout the cemetery where we have, different goals, like, with pruning and much more tightly maintained garden areas as well. So there's something for everyone, really, in my opinion. And for the plants that we added, there's let's see, we've got cardinal flower, Lobelia cardinalis, Asclepias incarnata, and tuberosa, a little bit of Ceanothus americanus, Eupatorium perfoliatum, Pycnanthemum tenuifolium, both. Well, the rabbits, so that's another challenge. We have rabbits. We want to have New England aster so badly, but the rabbits really like that. But Verbena hastata, which is a fantastic plant, and some more, we didn't have to add too much Vernonia, but up in the triangle, we added the Vernonia lettermanii for a little more ornamental value. It's a great plant. I really love that. And then we also added this. Speaking of early season, this Zizia aptera, which is actually heartleaf golden Alexander, as opposed to you see a lot of the Zizia aurea. This one is actually blooming right now, so I was happy to. Well, I took this a little bit ago, but so it's blooming now, so I was really excited to see this early season blooming plant. It's really quite lovely and a really handsome plant. Let's see. Another area that we're kind of playing with is, apologies for this kind of boring map, but this is just northeast of the dell, and it's below the tower. We have an area that, there's a roadway. It's part of this Poplar Ave, Larch Ave, and it goes around basically goes all the way around the mountain, and the tower is this way and the dell is this way. And so we last year left a huge space here, I don't want to say unmowed, but we used reduced mowing for sustainability reasons to lessen our carbon footprint and just to mow less, because there's a lot of value in having just a little bit longer grass, and it really is more of a nod to kind of how the cemetery would have looked. We have our longer fescue areas kind of over here, which gets mowed 1 or 2 times a year, and it's really, this is a hot button topic. Some people love it and some people are like, oh, the grass is too long. But I think it's really really quite lovely at the right times of the year. So here we've worked with Larry Weiner and Associates. They have a big plan for this area, but we did a test plot here and no one would really know what's happened so far. But Larry Weiner put together a plant list for us, and Parterre Ecological came through with a slice seeder in the fall. We did a dormant seeding in some shaded areas and some sunny areas we used a Carex mix in the shady areas, and we have a fescue mix for the sunnier areas. And then we really are just kind of leaning into, we have a lot of nice native grasses that are already existing in this space. And so it will get mowed 1 or 2 times a year and will be more of a low meadow space. We're experimenting to see how it looks, how it feels, how we can keep up with it. You know, when you don't mow, we have places where the swallowwort comes up or other naughty plants that we don't want around. So there's other maintenance issues that will kind of come up when you aren't mowing. But for now, last year with the drought and everything, it was in our favor for this space because the grass didn't grow that much. So if we could be somewhere in the middle, a balance, you know, boy, there's a theme to this talk. She's really good, huh? You know, that would be really great if we could just have that somewhere in the middle. And so the next step is this spring we'll be adding some oh, I wrote it right here on my notes. We'll be adding some forbs. So Allium cernuum, Asclepias tuberosa, Asclepias incarnata, Epilobium or Camarian angustifolium, which you would know as fireweed, Conoclinum colistinum, which is the blue mist flower, Eurybia divaricata, Monarda fistulosa, Monarda punctata, Verbena stricta, Zizia aurea. So I'm working with the horticulturist in this zone to strategically place some kind of drifts of forbs. This is just gonna add a nice highlight. It's gonna, again, you know, touch all of those points that we like, which is it's for the visitor, for someone coming through the cemetery for the first time or the 100th time, to see something really great in plants in a really nice space. And it will, you know, provide for our pollinators and birds and things like that, and have a nice low meadow. And so a lot of these not a lot of, all of these plants can also tolerate being mowed early on, and then will just bloom as a shorter plant. And a few of them are chosen for their shade tolerance, and will eventually, I hope, the hope is, would kind of work together with our Carex blend or other grasses to then just become kind of a low woodland ground cover in those shady areas. And the other sun-loving forbs can self-sow and kind of self-manage themselves throughout the space. And just in many years, everyone will enjoy it as this beautiful low meadow. So sorry, enough map pictures. Sorry about that. And speaking of, like, this looks like a funny picture of a green plant. It's a Vernonia volunteer, which I was just like so excited this summer when I saw this. This is in another portion off of Palm Ave of where was a low mow or reduced mowing area. You can see kind of right here where it's a little bit thicker. So at this time, when this plant had grown about 6 or 8 inches high, it had gotten mowed for the first time. And then just like you would do in your really fancy garden, you know, you're trying to keep it tight and everything from flopping over or whatever, it popped up again. It's called a Chelsea cut. It popped up again, and now we have this cute little Vernonia plant that is part of this like grassy area. And I'm like, this is the goal. We didn't even try, just did it. And then this picture is just showing one of our curb lots. This is called a curb lot. We have many curb lots that we've transitioned into planted beds instead of grass or turf. So, and it's a variety of things. In certain areas, we use it as more of an ornamental type place. Ornamental type bed, which has a lot more heavily planted flowers and things, and others will just be turf alternatives like ground cover, like we use Waldstania, or it's called GM now, Barren Strawberry as a ground cover a lot. We are completely moving away from Vinca, ivy, and well, Pachysandra you'll see a little bit still, but we're just not planting that anymore, and now switching gears into some new ground covers that we're going to experiment with some more to see who can make it, and hopefully the natives will survive the most. This is another kind of balance example where we have some exotic or your ordinary garden plants, but we also planted very heavily. This is Monarda all around the border of this. So it just, to me, kind of demonstrated a lot of how we find that balance in some of our ornamental planting beds, is that we have a large number of native plants. That's what we lean towards, but then we always have a little something extra to kind of take a look at that might not be a native plant. And this is just a picture of some of our natives that I enjoy the most. I apologize, this is like so blurry, but it's Calacanthus floridus, which is I can't remember the common name now, sweet shrub. And this is at Auburn Lake, and Auburn Lake is one of my favorite places, hands down, in the cemetery. I have like 7, but this is a favorite. And especially in terms of this talk too, is that like this is where you'll find that balance of, you'll find a ton of native plants. It's mostly native plants, but then you've got these kind of exciting, arboretum standbys here with the, Meta sequoia and European beech and the Taxodium is native. And so it's got a little something for everyone. You're gonna get your arboretum fill there, but also there's a baseline of all kinds of native plants and lots that's also where I see all of the best birds, whenever I'm birding. And so it just is a special place. We've got tons of winterberry. I think if anyone was going to plant a native plant, it would be winterberry, because it's got these great fruits, and then it provides a ton of food for birds in a time that they really need it. This is Opuntia humifusa, sorry, excuse me. And that's just our native prickly pear. We have that here up on the ridge planted, which is a really fun plant to see. And then Antenaria plantaginifolia, I believe this is plantain-leaved pussy toast, but in any case, this is a great plant, a fantastic plant that we're using a lot of for ground cover, and it's also a host for American lady butterfly, so we like to see that. I didn't include a photo, but I was just inspired so much. We have a bunch of it by Halcyon Lake and a few other places, but spice bush, if there was another plant that I would recommend everyone to plant, is spice bush, Lindera benzoin. So we love to have that, and it's blooming right now. So I just, I was somewhere, Rock Meadow, I think, and it's just completely full of spice bush. So great plant for the landscape. And then this is kind of when I started at the cemetery, I took care of Asa Gray Garden, and that's really kind of like what is like embedded in me, which is again, as I was saying earlier, a real blend of it's literally a balance of exotic and native here. That's the point of this garden. And so this was just a great demonstration of how we kind of balance those two things here. We do use a bunch of cultivars, because that's what really works the most in a managed landscape, especially if you have a more fine garden area like this. The cultivars that will give you a smaller size or something like that is really what's going to help you. But this oak leaf hydrangea is just the best, and we've got pycnanthemum and petacetum elapecuroides in both of these photos. And so they're both photos are just kind of a mix of best of both worlds. Yeah, okay, I guess only 33 minutes then. So thank you. I only had a couple resources. A lot of it is from just information that I've gathered here at the cemetery, picking everybody's brains. Feel free to email me if you have any questions, or you are like, hey, what's that plant that I saw out there? I'll try to answer it. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen. Carolina Allspice. Thank you, Tori. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's great. Very nice.
Okay.
Do people have questions?
So, Jean, if I could, I have a question, and I also wondered if Cynthia wanted to say a few words about the Somerville Growing Center at some point, because I believe Somerville Growing Center is our co-sponsor for this evening.
No, that's for next time.
Oh, next time. Oh, sorry. Well, I'm a month ahead or something like that. So Cynthia, we've given you given a preview of that. My mistake. So then moving right along, when you tidy up, Steph, at the end of like you're about to do with some of the stems that have gone through the winter, what do you end up doing with those? Do you have a plan for what you do with them?
The stems?
Yeah.
Well, beyond what we're trying to do, which is this kind of like higher level, we remove stems and they go and hang out in a big pile for a while, and then they get composted. Yeah. So, yep.
I have a question. Have you thought of having signage that might explain where areas might look a little messy, but
Yeah.
there's a lot going on?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of signage, which is difficult. Every public garden that I've ever worked in, there's always like a big conversation about signage. I'm like, people need to know, and then others are like, no signs, So yes, signage is definitely on the agenda, I think. I would hope, but it's still to be decided.
Jean, I have a question for Steph.
Okay, go.
Steph, thank you so much. I think I'm your neighbor at Hosmer School. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice to see you. So what native grasses would you recommend for full sun that won't really grow above, say, 2.5 feet? I'm thinking about a bump out and planting strips.
Yeah. I love Bouteloua gracilis. That's a good one. It won't get above 2 feet.
Could you spell it, or could you say it again?
Yeah, Bouteloua, Bouteloua.
I'm sure somebody will put it in the
I
chat.
know. Yeah, right.
Bouteloua.
Yeah,
Okay.
gracilis, or it's grandma grass.
Okay.
This is gonna bother me now. It's Bouteloua. Blue
Okay.
grandma, gracilis, gracilis. That's a great one. And Andropogon.
I did the purple love grass. That worked.
Yeah, that was my next one. And then I don't know if you're looking for just straight species plants as opposed to any cultivars, but again, I can't. Little blue stem is like my most favorite. And they planted that a lot in those like triangles. I think we talked about this in those triangles in our neighborhood, and I just love it, the little blue stem. So
Thank you.
something lower.
Thank you so much. If you think of anything, yeah.
Yeah. Am I calling on people? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sarah, I saw your hand first.
Thank you. So I go to Mount Auburn a lot, and I have been looking at this Indian Ridge Path project where there has been some signage talking about native plantings.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm always curious, what's going on?
Yeah. So there's been a mixed, there's several different phases, and there's been filling in with some shrubs. What was along there was a number of non-native plants, including Norway maples. And so while it was like a little sad to lose some plants, in the long run, we're really going to see in a few years, it's going to be a slow crawl. We're going to see there's some low meadow areas, and then more, a lot was planted with plugs, and then some was seeded meadow. So it's going to take a little while to fill in. And a lot of this was by Larry Weiner. The design was by Larry Weiner and Associates, and I can put that in the chat. You can take a look at if anyone's familiar with his work, but he's great. They do great public landscapes. They've done a lot at Greenwood Cemetery and other cemeteries as well. And so it's finished. The planting is finished. And it'll take a little while for it to fill in some more, but it's going to be a mix of grasses, kind of some matrix planting, and the native plants as well. The list is very long. I don't know, did Dennis talk about Indian Ridge last time?
He did, but it was
Yeah.
before it had been cordoned off. And
Oh yeah, cordoned off. Well, it's open now. But there are we did want to reduce a lot of the foot traffic on some of the seeded areas. So there are areas that are seeded, but hopefully we'll be starting that, opening that up some more as we get more visitation and stuff. So did that answer your question okay? Let's see. question. Bad are the bunnies. The bunnies are pretty bad. But we also have started to, that's overcoming one of the challenges is just kind of observing what they're after. Sometimes what we've noticed in some cases is that they'll go after new plantings because the plants that come in from the nursery or whatever are like all juiced up with fertilizer and stuff, and so they're like, oh well, yeah, this is so great, and they like eat it all, and then the next year they don't bother it at all because they're just like regular plants and they're not as exciting, because some areas one year they'll eat all of like this, they ate all of the Aster laevis the first season, and then the next season around they didn't really care about it that much. And Aster laevis, it self-sows everywhere, and like we could use the help in just kind of keeping that plant under control as much as we love it. But in a managed landscape, we have to have a little bit of balance on that one too. So, but they do, we realize what they eat, and so we stay away from some of those things. But we do get a lot of bark damage they chew a lot of bark on plants, on woody ornamentals, and the natives and the non-natives. So it's really pretty tough. Do you start mostly from plugs, or have you used seeds? Still seeds, like seeds starting in pots and then to be planted out, or seed in the ground?
I was thinking the latter.
Yeah.
Seeds in the ground, and then do you manage it, or is it part of the Weiner Associates responsibility?
Yeah, so there's a couple spaces that are seeded meadow with carex mixes and other warm season grasses, and then also some forbs. So some of that stuff still remains to be seen because it was seeded last year, and some stuff it can take almost an entire year to germinate. So we did see some germination on some things. We've done some other test areas that we've had success with. And yeah, we have to we manage that. It's tricky because you have to, a lot of the management is weed management. So you know, when you have a big space, we have 175 acres and a pretty small staff, so it can get out of control easily. But we've had pretty good results with some of those areas. A couple other areas where we've done Carex and with some forbs like Aquilasia canadensis, like that does great. Yeah. So still to be seen, especially what we did at Hawthorne Hill this last fall. I'm really excited to see that another one. It could take almost a year for that to germinate, that especially as Carex is really slow germinating. So we'll see how it does.
Pam has her hand up.
Okay, go Pam.
Sorry, it takes me a minute.
Hi.
Hi, I'm not sure I really have questions. I'm a little zoned out today, but so I'm just more want to comment that this sounds like there's some really amazing changes happening. When I first started, I mean, I've led a couple of bee safaris through Mount Auburn, and the places I like to hit are around Willow Pond, and if I can get up to it, sometimes around the tower. Often I haven't seen that much happening there, but just last Saturday I went to a bee safari hosted by Nick Dorian of the Tufts Pollinators, and there was this incredible slope just filled with a nesting aggregation of cellophane bees. That was just mind-blowing.
Great.
We're in April to see it. And
Yeah.
And of course there's the apiary and the meadow in the southwest corner. How has that been doing? Because I remember when it was first established, like the first year, it got mowed.
Yeah.
And now it's generating stems for you.
Yeah. It's doing well, and we had, you know, a miscommunication this year and it got mowed, but we are not going to do that again. And so that's another one where we're monitoring. We're going to watch what comes up this year, kind of monitoring what's going on. There's a lot of the Asclepias syriacas there, which is a great plant. We love common milkweed, but it can also be a bit of a bully and doesn't really know how to keep its. So we're keeping that in its own place. You know, we have to do a little bit of editing in those types of areas. But my hope is that I'm working closely with Jerry from the greenhouse, and then also with Paul and the horticulturist that's in that zone, is that this year we're going to just kind of keep an eye on it, see what's happening. There's still a lot of Celastrus and stuff in there that's still coming up that we're going to need to do some management of the weeds and just kind of observe who's there and what's there. And I was looking at the plant list from when that was planted, was that there are still a number of cultivars and things like that. And so I would like to see some more, you know, straight species or local ecotypes get worked in there, and maybe a little more diversity as well. Some things that are going to provide for more than just the honeybees. I'm speaking pretty much for my opinion, but I do get to give input, so I'm excited for that. So I think we'll keep working on that. But for the time being, it will continue to be a meadow space, and with they're kind of like meadow islands. There's some grassy lawn areas that will get mowed occasionally. So
yeah.
Helen had her hand, and then Brucey has her hand.
Thank you.
Helen?
Yeah, I'm muted. I've been going to Mount Auburn about once a week for the last couple of years with a friend who had her knee done and has to walk. And so we have walked everywhere. And I love watching more and more natives, especially up around by the tower. And then we'll come on to another area and go, oh, she's got natives in here too. So it's just here you're thinking. But I'm realizing what I would love. Is there any kind of coherent map that we could take? Like, okay, I know the tower, I know the ponds, but there's this other place you just talked about. Oh, there's a couple more places now that you've just talked about. I'd love people to say, okay, now this is the space that has blah, 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 and really go and look at it.
Yeah, we need a map, of all those spaces.
I mean, how much trouble I mean, both the signage and the guided tour that we're asking for.
I'm noting it down that we
Combination?
need some signage and a map. You know, we have historical tour maps and things like that, so I don't see why we couldn't have like a ecological map, or we do have a story map that has all of the citizen scientists that Mina Burton made for us last year, which it should be on the website, but again, technology at the last minute. I can try and look for something and send that to Jean. And
Yeah,
she can
or
pass
I
it
mean,
along.
I'd be willing to come out and help you work on it with you for a few hours.
Oh, fun.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Let's
Might be
see.
another citizen science project for us or something.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna tell Paul, because I think Paul would love that. He actually would probably say, "Oh well, Steph, I already have a map. You know, you just have to know where it is." So yeah, that's a great idea. I think,
Thank you.
and you know, it's something that we're really working on too, to like define where these spaces are, so that we can say, well, this is this area, and this is, and the maintenance standards here align with what we're trying with our goals for this area. So like at the butterfly garden or at the tower, our goals there are to provide habitat or pollinator interest and things like that. But we're also, the citizen scientists are studying something here, so we're gonna not do X. So yeah, I think that's great. That's great feedback, and
Well, thank you.
have that happen. Yeah, I recognize you. I feel like I've seen you around walking. So
So my question is about invasives management. As home gardeners and community gardeners, we encounter so many entrenched invasives, whether it's bishop's weed and creeping bellflower or knotweed and bittersweet. And it's just, it seems never ending. And I'm wondering what your strategies are.
I feel the same way. It's like a never ending, battle against the invasives. And so some things, if you have, this is how Larry Weiner and Associates say this as well. If you have herbicides on the table, I don't like to use that word, and we're not organic, but in some cases this is the way to deal with it, and there are responsible ways to manage invasives. But I'm not here to talk about using herbicides or anything like that. But a lot of hand pulling, and at the right times, and very mindfully. I don't have a good answer for this, because I don't like to use any chemicals for it, and then in some cases that is what it's meant for. Most ecological restoration companies are using herbicides to manage invasives and to restore habitats. So I know that that's an unpopular thing to say, but it is a reality, and there are responsible ways to use them.
So I am familiar with the perspective on that.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I'm scared to say it.
Well, especially for large scale landscapes. If you've got acres,
yeah,
it raises a very different issue from if you have a 4,000 or 8,000 square foot lot.
So what we do to deal with certain things in certain areas, if you can, is sheet mulching. I do a fair amount of sheet mulching to smother weeds and things like that. I've done that myself in my own personal areas. Goutweed, only some, or bishop's weed, only some success. And in some cases, in some areas, I've just had to say, okay, this is where you live, and I just try to keep it contained. Especially when we have acres and acres where I'm like, we could spend a month of Sundays trying to deal with this plant, but mowing, if you can mow it at the right time to keep it, you know, kind of knocked down. It depends on what the plant is. Yeah.
So, what about native plants that will outcompete some of the invasives?
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of them.
Okay, it's a daydream.
It's a daydream, yeah.
Okay.
But boy, that's a good one. I'm sorry, I'm not on my toes on this one, and I don't have a good answer for that right now. Unfortunately, I
So
have to keep thinking about that.
I'll hand this off. Somebody else has asked, Sarah's asked about lesser celandine.
Oh yeah,
That's a tough one. Do you
it is.
do you pull it or do you just
Yeah,
Well,
do you sheet mulch? I just recently had my bubbles burst because somebody said, "Oh, sheet mulching just doesn't work at all." We're trying so hard to get rid of this patch in a public garden, and it just is.
yeah, it's in and where is it, in the lawn, or it's in like a?
It's a woodland garden. It's a
Mm.
so I don't know. So we see it in new places. We've been covering with black plastic. We've
Yeah.
we spend all our springs pulling.
So this is one of those ones that so we did have Parterre Ecological here for a long time, for a bit, while we were doing the Indian Ridge project, and they were managing a lot of invasives that were along there, and lesser celandine was one of them, and that's one that they did use an herbicide for. You can use like a foam to put directly on the plant, and it moves. It's not something that you just, you know, you're not just like buying, you know, Roundup and spraying it everywhere. It's very concentrated and direct on there. So, I mean, that's the way that you're going to get rid of this plant, unless you are willing to just like keep pulling or try to smother it.
But have you found that actually works? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, as far as we can tell, yes, it worked in one area. Yeah.
The smothering, you mean?
Oh, no.
No.
The bad
So,
stuff.
so this foam, is this like you have to be a licensed to be able to use it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like giving the herbicide
Right, I
the
know.
herbicide because it's not something that we use very often. It's something that has been used by a contractor in a very controlled environment, and so it's something that if I would look to hire someone to do, who is going to be able to do it in the right amount, in a controlled space with the right timing, you know, weather wise, and the right conditions. They pay very close attention to that. And so those are all the really important things to consider when you're using something like that. But what it does do is, you know, it has a color to it, so you can tell exactly where it's been placed, and then it's, you know, really is not. But it's a public garden, you know, you might have, you might be growing food there or something like that. So you really have to be mindful of if you actually want to go that route or not, and how bad is it, and how worth it is it.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet. But
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not ready yet, but I'm also getting very frustrated with this.
Yeah, I haven't had a good answer for that yet either. So I'm sorry.
I've noticed some, it may be related to the drought, but the dell has been there's been algae like growing across the dell, and I don't know, is that area, is there a solution to that, to, you know, skim
Well,
it?
it's you know, a combination of, you know, buildup of material in there, in the water, and then you know, it doesn't have as much, you know, air circulation in the water as the other water bodies. But that's definitely Paul's area of expertise, and something that we just kind of deal with. Also, the water level has been a little lower, so I think that could contribute to it as well.
It's not naturally fed.
No,
No.
it's more on the side of a vernal pool, I think.
Mm, yeah. So where are you finding salamanders?
There though.
Yeah.
There, yeah. As recently as last night. Salamanders and spring peepers and gray tree frogs and American toads and redback salamanders as well.
Ooh.
So and the water was so high there just like 2 weeks ago when we had all that rain, and it's already started to drop down. I think it just, you know, it really evaporates in there or drains out like pretty quickly.
Mm. Do you still have resident deer in there?
No deer.
Oh, they were there for a while.
Yeah, they were.
Lucy has a question.
Okay.
What are your plans? What are your next plans or your daydreams for what you'd like to try out?
Oh, it's like it goes on and on. Well, so I'm excited about this area that we're calling Hawthorne Hill. There's a section just you know, where that'll be kind of a low meadow that we're working on doing ourselves. And then there's this kind of grand plan that goes along with it that goes all the way around to Palm Ave, and then I think eventually connects to the tower. So I mean, that would be great, right? And then we have plans for, but we're still working through a lot of the details. Violet Path, which is just north of the tower, is due for some updating in that the slope that goes down from the tower towards the dell, for a number of, you know, shortfalls or whatever, shade and things like that, has just kind of, the understory has depleted a bit, and so has the path there. So hopefully as we can keep working on it, we'll add some more woodland natives in there and kind of regain some of the understory, and then at the same time that will help stabilize that slope some more, because erosion is a problem. I've noticed the most this year that with the lack of snow cover and the winter rains, there's been a lot of erosion in a lot of areas, which is concerning. I don't love that. So keeping some of those shored up, and then we also have kind of it is a long-term plan to replace some of our big old kind of ugly taxus hedges and things with some more desirable plantings, so, or just nothing. So that's kind of a long-term thing, and some of them will get pruned to look to be more of tree size, which, so that's a slow project that we're working on. And I've joked to people that, you know, if it were up to me, everything would just be like grasses and pollinator plants and native plants everywhere. And so, you know, that also wouldn't, you know, give much variety for everyone to enjoy. So although it's just what I would like to see, we have to strike the balance of our arboretum, botanic garden, because I also actually I have like a real soft spot for you know, funky plants and different plants and things that you wouldn't normally see somewhere, and I love to have that mixed in with you know, mixed borders of, you know, shrubs and perennials and things like that. So I do have a kind of fine gardening and ornamental gardening background at heart. So
is your site going to be are you going to have Mount Auburn be part of the City Nature Challenge site? Do you know?
oh, I don't know. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
It would be great. It would be rich with images, I think.
Yeah.
Next weekend, April 28th through weekend of the 28th and the 29th.
Oh, wow. No, I'm not sure. It might be
Yeah,
it might be too late to pull that off, but we do have some Arbor Day stuff happening next week. Next week? Yeah, that's next week, right?
yeah.
With a tree planting and everything, which we haven't done in a few years. So I'm happy to be celebrating that.
No, that's nice. Well, I think
Did I get everybody's questions here?
We have one about garlic mustard.
Oh, so I have that's one that we just that gets pulled as fast as we can get it. And actually we have I have a volunteer, a person who spends a lot of time at the cemetery who I have given permission to, she's like, can I just pull the garlic mustard? And I said, okay, fine. So I've given her tools and everything, and she has a bag, and she just is a, you know, solo team of just getting it before it goes to flower or anything like that. And just, I think if you stay on that, if you're able to stay on it and pull it, it can be pulled. It comes up pretty easily. And then the best thing is to make sure that you're not like disturbing the seed bank too much when you're doing it, because in some ways by pulling it, you're just making it worse because there's seeds in the soil there as well. So those disturbances can also do that. So just continually monitoring for it to, if it's resprouting, to continue to pull that. So.
And then do you have a replacement plant that you put there?
No, because we just try to keep up with as many as we can. Keeping a layer of mulch on there is helpful because you know, mulch can keep some of the seeds from germinating a bit as best you can. But yeah, the invasive plants are, yeah, they're a challenge for sure. We just do the best we can.
Elaine has a question.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I had a comment, an observation of,
Oh.
I've seen I've seen violets growing a lot associated with garlic mustard. It seems to be kind of holding its own, so that might be something that could be a replacement.
Yeah, violets. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Well, I think we could ask more questions. I was going to just leave a little bit of time for people to make announcements because a lot of things are happening in the next couple of weeks because of spring. And we have people from various towns here. So do people want to make announcements of things that are happening that the rest of us should know about? I know, Melinda, you had something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Watertown Community Gardens has several volunteer days coming up. The first one, the next one is April 23rd. We're going to be going to each of the places that we maintain, each of the public areas, or like in front of DPW, in the Philipella Park, and working on the spaces that we planted. And we'd love people to join us if you feel like it. Watertown Community Gardens has it on their events calendar. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have something. The Alewife Garden that got permitted last December in the north section by Discovery Park. I'm working with two others, Ellen Mass and a professor from Leslie. We're having an open house awareness, bush shrub planting, cleanup, City Nature Challenge Day on Saturday, April 29th from 10 until 2. And would love for people to stop by to see this garden. It's going to go through a transformation. Too much goldenrod, the canadensis, so we're going to be replacing that slowly with more biodiverse species. But we can send info out, I guess, to our mailing list. So that might be good. Yeah. Other things.
Sarah has her hand up.
Sarah.
Okay, and I see Catherine Zuzi has her hand up, so I'm gonna call on her after me. I just wanted to say that our seed library has successfully transitioned now for the season to spring or so the growing season is these beautiful new native plant books for the borrowing, and brochures on tapestry lawns, invasives. What else? I can't remember. The
Organic.
stem cutting for habitat bookmark. We have a whole bunch of things like that in there. And we're also getting a donation of seeds of Monarda punctata from Prairie Moon,
And that's
which does not require cold stratification. So people can plant anytime.
that's outside the Belmont Library near the Woodland Garden, so you can visit it and the garden at the same time. That's a beautiful spring garden. Kathy, what? do you
Okay, hi. Yeah, wonderful program. Working with Jean and with Helen, the Cambridge Plant and Garden Club is organizing a native plant seed giveaway during Cambridge's compost giveaway on April 22nd. So that will be at the main branch of the library from I think 9 to 1 p.m. And then on the 13th of May, again, advised by Jean and Helen and others, and Candace, who's on the line, we are distributing plant plugs. We've been selling this is our second year with the students at CRLS, the local high school. We've been selling native plant plugs. We sell 3 for $10, so we're really selling them at cost, and we'll be distributing. So these have all been prepaid, or most of them have been prepaid. But that will be great. And Jean will be there with her exhibit, or will share her exhibit, because we really see this as an opportunity to get the word out and educate people about the importance of native plants. And then finally, big news today, Maura Healy signed a proclamation making April Native Plant Month. Yeah, so the Garden Club of America has sort of nationally, it's been signed on that nationally, April is Native Plant Month, but now in 45 states, the states have made April Native Plant Month as well. So that's great, and it's all in an effort to, again, bring attention to the importance of planting native plants. So I'm so grateful to all of you for all of your work. It's been great to hear about.
Brucey, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I was just going to say, Arlington Eco Fest is running from this, sorry about the background noise, I think it'll stop in a minute, that it will run from this Saturday, April 22nd until mid-May. And there are all kinds of events, including some that Elaine and her group are running to tackle invasives in public spaces around Arlington.
And in particular, Elaine Crowder, the Arlington Mass Invasives Army, we connected with folks from Mystic Charles last year to look at a space that we're calling Bow Street and Fraser Road in Arlington along the bike path. There's a number of native species, and can you hear me? Because yeah, okay. Number of native species coming up, and we are removing garlic mustard and knotweed. And we want to get a date that might work for some folks if you're interested on the 30th.
Later in the month. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. I think that may be it. Which means
I put a plug.
Sorry.
Yeah, hi. The Growing Center is having an event this Saturday from noon to 4 or 1 to 4, just in celebration of Arbor Day, and there'll be activities. So I just put in the chat.
This Saturday, the 22nd or the 29th?
The 22nd.
22nd. Great.
Yeah.
Fun. Terrific. Well, if we don't have any other questions, the Mr. Charles, we were talking earlier, we may not have Zoom meetings in the summer because we didn't last year, but we'll keep you apprised. We'll probably be doing more of these invasive pulls like the one that Elaine just mentioned, and some garden tours and things. But we do have the May 9th with Russ Cohen. So come on back for that, because that should be really interesting and tasty too. All right. Well, thank you so much, Steph. That was really, it helps us when we walk through to know what to look for.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I hope that was informative, or,
It was great. Thank you so
oh,
much.
good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And I hope to see you all around the grounds.
Well,
It's nice to see right now. It's really popping off. So
I think there may have been a suggestion or two about a guided tour of some of the places that you were talking about. I'm seeing nods, so yes.
Okay. Noted.
Sarah?
Actually, I have a question. At one of the lakes, the one that's two of them with the bridge over it, they have some beautiful azaleas.
Yeah.
And are those native, and what kind are they?
Are the orange ones?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
They're rhododendron. Oh my God. Sorry, my brain
I'm
is.
sorry.
No, it's fine. I just have such a bad time sometimes remembering things. I can see it in my. Oh yeah, calendulaceum, like calendula. It's rhododendron calendulaceum, and that's the orangey yellow one that's there. There's also a nice planting of it on the looking at my map right now, literally. It's the northeast slope looking towards Halcyon Lake of Indian Ridge of the same one. And they have that beautiful orange blossom, which I'm not a huge orange fan for the landscape, but I just love these. So yeah.
Do you have a pink version?
Oh yeah, the rhododendron, it's probably viscosum, or there's also paramexplanoides, which is another like clammy azalea. Those are or swamp azalea, I think is either white or pink.
But doesn't swamp bloom in July?
A little later, maybe June, maybe June-ish.
Okay, sorry, I'm just
maybe
getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, hope to see you there soon.
Yeah, thanks all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks everyone for coming. Guess it's time to say goodnight.
8:52. Yeah.
That's good. All right, I'm gonna close down the taping.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Good
All
night.
right, see y'all anon.